Good morning. I'm glad to be with all of you today and glad you're here to worship together. I want to start with something of a confession. I've made this confession to a few of you before. Here it is. I like this time of year in our life together. And I like it because we talk about stewardship, which I know is a little bit odd. But I like it because it asks that we talk about what we value about this place, what we are about together, and why this is worth our commitment to sustain and to grow. You know, what we do here is really old. It's ancient. We've been in this place for 80 years. Good Shepherd has. This is our 80th birthday. And we've been worshiping in this tradition with a book of common prayer for just under 500 years. It was written in English for the first time in 1549. And some of the words we use today and much of the pattern of our service today, this service right now, much of it is the same as it was then. And some of those words and some of that pattern stretches back even farther to what we know of the first followers of Jesus who would have gathered in small groups in the years after his life and death and resurrection. And all of the passages of the New Testament that we read from today, in fact, the entirety of the New Testament dates back more than 1,900 years. Ancient stories. Much, much older than anything else you and I typically read. And occasionally this makes them hard to understand. They were written at a really different time for different people. You know, the oldest parts of our New Testament, Paul's letters, they contain quotations from hymns that were the very earliest Christians. It's what they would have been singing in their worship together. And the Psalms are ancient poetry, hundreds of years older than Jesus. Many of them were written to be sung to, like we did ours today. Thank you, choir. It's what we've been doing for thousands of years. So we connect with this ancient practice in our hymns and in our music. And we're reading from scriptures, even in our service today, that are much earlier than Jesus' time, too. The Jewish scriptures that we read, like from 1 Kings today. Many of them written hundreds of years before Jesus' life, and they are stories that in many cases go back thousands of years before that. And these stories include the whole range of human experience. They are about people and situations at their best, and they're about people and circumstances at their worst, and they're about everything in between. And you all know all of this already, but I'm saying this, I'm reminding us of this, because when we worship, like right now, we are joining with so many people who've come before us. And we can remember some of them, people we loved who aren't here any longer. And there are millions more over so many centuries who've read the same readings, worshiped in this same pattern, sung these very same words. They found meaning in these stories and in exactly what we're doing right now. And when they did this, they brought all the different seasons of their lives with them. They showed up over all of those thousands of years with their joys and their celebrations, and with their losses and grief and sadness. And I think about this often, particularly when we are marking the occasions of baptisms or weddings or funerals, that we are doing what so many millions of people have done before us. Bringing our lives here in the way that people have done for centuries. Whatever you are bringing today, joy and celebration, sadness, anxiety, wonder, wherever you are, let this tradition hold you. Let it carry you. Relax into this moment with everything that you bring with you, knowing that you are offering it into a tradition that can hold it all. You are offering it to a God who can hold it all. And imagine right now that what you have is enough. That when you bring everything here, you are enough. Years ago, I heard a priest, Ken Swanson, give a sermon that struck me right away. This was probably 25 years ago. He described a river of prayer underneath us. The prayers of all those people who've come before us. The hopes and desires of all the people around us. The church all over the world in this moment. The intentions of our own hearts. Together, all of that forming a river of prayer under us. And all we have to do is let it carry us. All we have to do is join in with our own intentions, our own song, our own words. And you can look underneath you right now, and it is not there. There's a slate floor, and underneath it, concrete and dirt. It's not there. And it is there. It's just as real as that concrete and dirt. The hopes of so many people, the intentions of their hearts, the desires in their minds, the offering of their lives. It is a river of prayer underneath us. And you can't hear it. Except that you can hear it. You can hear it in every song that we sing this morning. You can hear it in the words we read that echo through so many centuries, in the stories of meaning and purpose, the stories of challenge, of values. You can hear it in people's pain and in their celebration and in their heartbreak. It is right underneath us. A river of prayer. And you and I join it every time we set foot in this place. The widow in our story today steps forward in the temple and says, I don't have much, but take me too. Make this mine too. You know, Jesus' teaching style requires some engagement on our part. One reason these stories have survived for so many centuries is that they overflow with meaning. That's how author Marcus Borg puts it. They don't just have one meaning, but they overflow with meaning. They're often perplexing stories where you see yourself in every different character and role depending on the day. And sometimes you're comforted. You're the one who needs God's help and God's presence. And sometimes you're the person in the story who gets challenged, to whom God is saying, you don't have it quite right. What you're doing is not quite right. And that's why we're reading these stories truly thousands of years later. Jesus teaches in a wisdom tradition that makes us think. And he doesn't reduce these stories down to one thing to believe. And he rarely even mentions the issue of the day, the presenting issue of the moment. He almost never mentions it. But instead, he calls people to examine the intentions of their hearts. And he calls people to examine what they value. And then so often he says, the truth is so much bigger than just what you're thinking right now. And the first step towards that truth is to live out what you profess. You know, we've been talking for a while now this fall about the mission of the church as it's defined by the Book of Common Prayer, that this place exists to reunite us to each other and to God, to uncover for us, to reveal for us a union that is already there. We just have to let ourselves experience it. All we have to do is be open to knowing it and seeing it. And nothing really changes. Not a thing. And so much is different. So much is different when you're part of a community that is seeking to know God together just by showing up. It is all different. Bring all of you. What you are thinking and feeling, it's in your body, it's in your muscles, it's in your breath. Bring it here. This widow in our story today, the system was against her. That's one of the messages of Jesus' story. The temple tax system is unfair to her. But even with that, her offering of herself is enough. She has almost nothing, but she has enough. She is enough. You are made whole right now with all that you need in this moment, right now. And we proclaim that it is holy. This space, the people who came before us, this altar, these words, and with them we proclaim that everything is holy, all of it, offered to each other in union with each other, all of it offered into the mystery of God. And we return to these stories with every service. We return to this poetry and music. We return to these rituals that so many before us have read and sung and prayed for so long, in times that were good and in times that were challenging. And we say, comfort me with your presence, O God. When I feel alone or unseen, comfort me with your presence. And challenge me, O God, when I'm the one who's forgotten how to love others, especially those who are not like me, challenge me. And we say, when I'm the one who needs forgiveness or mercy, help me to know your love. And remind me, O God, that the way to know forgiveness and mercy myself is to extend it to others. Draw us together, O God, with all those who have come before us. Draw us together with them and with each other in the river of prayer that is underneath us right now. In our joy, in our sadness, in ourselves, in our souls and bodies. Draw us, O God, into union with you. Amen.